I want to bring in Ron Insana, CNBC contributor and publisher of The Message of the Market on Substack. Peter Baker is New York Times chief White House correspondent and an MSNBC political analyst. Mark McKinnon is a former advisor to President George W. Bush and Senator John McCain, as well as creator of the television series The Circus. So, Ron, the president says we are the hottest economy in the world. What does this report tell us?
Well, it would fly in the face of that analysis. And I think, economists will disagree with the assessment that I'm about to give about where we stand. This is a policy-driven slowdown in job creation. If you look at where the weakness is, which you described in part at the top of the show, where we saw, certainly in construction, we've seen government employment, we've seen it in manufacturing, we're seeing it now in semiconductor employment. The places where we're seeing job growth is in healthcare and hospitality. Those areas where we've seen job losses, and again, economists may disagree on this, are really, in my mind, the result of policies put in place by the Trump administration, which include the tariffs, immigration policy, government job cuts by DOGE, which have really yet to show up. Those people who are currently collecting severance, who have been let go by the government, will see that severance run out in September, and their job losses may show up in October. So we're not out of the woods here. We're starting to hear murmurs of the possibility of recession, but these numbers were unequivocally below expectations and poor, and also, on the flip side, raised the likelihood that the Federal Reserve is going to cut interest rates by at least a quarter point this month.
So, Mark, the president was actually asked about the jobs numbers last night, obviously in advance of these numbers coming out. He appeared to suggest they don't really matter. Take a listen.
The real numbers that I'm talking about are going to be whatever it is, but will be in a year from now when these monstrous, huge, beautiful places, they're palaces of genius. And when they start opening up, you're seeing, I think you'll see job numbers that are going to be absolutely incredible. Right now, it's a lot of construction numbers, but you're going to see job numbers like our country has never seen before.
This pattern we've seen of trusting numbers when they're good, attacking them when they're bad, or promising, in this case, that they'll change. Is there any indication that's costing him any support at this point?
Not yet, but it will. I mean, this is, presidential campaigns are all about the economy. James Carville said it years ago, it's the economy, it's stupid. It was then, it is now, it will be in the future. Ron said we're not out of the woods yet. I think we're just getting into the woods. I'm not an economist. I'm not a big business owner, but I'm a shallow media guy. I can see this train coming down the track. And the one thing that I know is a certainty is that businesses rely on certainty. And this tariff policy, even if you can explain it, which very few people can, it's an outdated policy from the late 1800s. I think it won't work now, and I think we're seeing why and how that won't work. And we're not going to get out of this anytime soon. This is going to be a long-term process. And by the way, let's be clear about this now. This is not the Biden economy. This is the Trump economy, 100%.
So, Ron, as we try to figure out what the exact impact is, first the markets were up, and then they're down. They're down now. They're down by less than they were a little earlier. What's going on?
All right. So the initial, if you will, positive reaction in the stock market was the notion that these soft numbers cement in place a Federal Reserve rate cut come the middle of September, whether it's a quarter point. And now that the data are weaker than we thought even prior to this, there's some pricing in the possibility of a half-point cut and maybe another one or two cuts before the end of the year. And you're seeing that illustrated in the bond market. Interest rates are plunging with the yield on the 10-year note now at 4.06%. Two-year note yields, which are very reflective and sensitive to Federal Reserve policy, are down rather sharply. So that was the initial knee-jerk reaction. The concern here is that, yes, you get a rate cut, but why are you getting the rate cut? Is it because we're maybe heading towards a recession and that could affect corporate profits and the outlook for the economy overall? That's why there's this secondary reaction in the stock market to move lower. How we end the day, open question, but there's clearly a fair amount of confusion as to what all the data mean and where the economy is going to be a couple months from now.
Peter, your paper, the New York Times, says this. This is a picture of a labor market with almost no energy left. Are people you're talking to within the administration as confident as the president is? Oh, in a year, we're going to see these monstrous, huge, beautiful places, their palaces of genius, start opening up. Do they feel that, or is there nervousness you're hearing and seeing at all?
Well, I mean, they're certainly nervous, no question about it. This is not the kind of report any president wants to see. It's certainly not the kind of report that a president who has based his political appeal largely on his reputation of being, an economic genius. That's the way he would put it, right? He ran the best economy ever. It wasn't the best economy ever, but it was a pretty good economy in his first term. And he uses that and exaggerates, of course, the actual facts in order to create the image of somebody who knows how to make the economy run. This is not the job report you would want in that regard. In fact, it's the kind of jobs report might get you fired in the Trump administration, except he already did that. So that's not left to him in order to do. But look, they are trying something that we've seen other presidents do, which is to say, hang on. Yeah, things may not be great now, but my economic program is so amazing that in some amount of time, it will produce great results. We saw that from Biden. We saw that from other presidents as well. Sometimes that works, but a lot of times it doesn't. And it requires President Trump to sell something he doesn't usually sell, which is patience. That's not usually what he's offering the American people. Usually he's telling them things are going to be instantly taken care of with a snap of fingers. That's not the case here, obviously.
Yeah, we're going to settle the war in a week. That didn't happen either. Mark McKinnon, if you're a Democrat in a purple state, maybe you've been weighing whether or not to run for office. Does this start to open a door for you?
Oh, no question about that, Chris. Historically, only twice has the in party, the president's party, gained seats in a midterm election. So it's already challenging. But you stack on top of that a really challenging economy. And by the way, I think by the midterms, it'll be much worse, contrary to Donald Trump's prediction. I think it's going to be a mess. And by the way, I kick this over to Ron, but the irony of all this is that I think that we were coming out of at least a relatively decent economy as Biden was going out of office. And I think had Trump just not done any of the tariffs and just let things kind of go as they were, I think we'd be in a pretty good economic situation. So now the Democrats running can say, now they can run on the Biden economy of a year ago.
Yeah, let me ask you about tariffs, Ron. The president wants the Supreme Court wants to rule. The president wants the Supreme Court to rule on these, and there are scenarios that say if they're struck down, the U.S. government could have to pay back hundreds of millions of dollars. Clearly, a recipe for chaos. And I just wonder, when you take that in the big picture, what you see in terms of tariffs.
Well, it's really dependent on the Supreme Court. If they invalidate the legitimacy of using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEPA, which the president used to impose the bulk of these tariffs, yeah, you would see companies petition the U.S. government for refunds, which then would mean the Treasury's not taking in the same amount of revenue. We saw $30 billion in tariff funds go into the Treasury last month, and they're projecting as anywhere from $300 to $500 billion in net revenues from these import taxes. So you would have then maybe less inflationary pressure, but you'd also have larger deficits if the economy weakens. So we're dealing with multiple moving parts at the same time, and it's very difficult to make a cogent forecast of exactly not only where the economy will be going forward, but what the composition looks like. If labor is weakening, inflation is still sticky, the tariffs come off, immigration deportations continue. It's this hodgepodge of policies that makes it extremely confusing for businesses and individuals to plan. And it really makes it hard to a certain extent for the Federal Reserve to enact policy. But more likely than not, they'll cut rates. It doesn't guarantee, given this policy mix, that we'll see an economic rebound, even if the Fed cuts rates.
Peter, I wonder, again, what you're hearing within the administration. Publicly, of course, the president has praised tariffs. He says we've got all this money coming in. But is there a general feeling that tariffs have been successful?
This is not an administration with a lot of different points of view. Unlike his first term, when he had people who disagree with some of his ideas and they debated it out and they had different factions philosophical and ideological factions within. This is a second-term team that basically is all on board. They are, whether they might have had reservations about tariffs at some point in the past, they are full speed ahead on them now. And I think what they tell themselves is, look, everybody predicted disaster with tariffs, and well, the markets are still doing well, and we'll get there. We have all these really important people coming to dinner, as you're showing there on the screen, and things will work out. They convince themselves that positive times are ahead. But anybody who has experience in managing an economy knows that it could just as easily go the way Mark is talking about, and if it does, it will hit at the exact wrong political moment in terms of that midterm, right? If we go into recession or we go into a stagnation kind of situation over the next few months, it'll happen right when candidates are getting geared up to start raising money and start making their pitches, and we'll see people making decisions on whether to run on the basis of whether they think the economy is something they can sell, or in the case of Democrats, run against.
Well, I guess that's the other part of the question. I asked you about the Democrats, Mark, but on the Republican side, could we see others dropping out who just decide, I don't need to do this anymore?
Sure. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of folks in Congress who are kind of holding their cards close right now, and they're making a bet on. They know it's going to be, Republicans know it's going to be a challenge in the House, just because it's a midterm and they're in power, and people just like change, generally speaking, especially when times are challenging. So if I'm somebody in Congress and I'm having to make a decision about whether to run or not, the economy would be a huge factor, and if it's not looking good, I'm out.